brother. Now broke, you no key person.
You no care anybody.
You no key anybody. So there's a season in your life where you can be broke and it is all right.
It's all right.
Welcome back to B's Corner. Again, it is the Church Boy Talk. Today, we are talking about the broke church brother. I remain Biama Joseph, aka B, and I still have Victor Obute.
Obute, the storyteller. I'm here with you.
Victor, how were your broke days? I know say you don't broke.
Brother. Brother.
Tell me this is serious. Tell me about it.
See, when you say now broke, you know
keep person.
This thing is true. There are seasons in your life where you be broke. See, for example, you go to school, right? I'm talking about the Nigerian context, for example. You go to school, you serve, then I think there will be that question where people be asking you, so what next?
What next, yeah?
In that period, you're either thinking, should I go and do a master? So for me, I studied biochemistry. And if you ask me, biochemistry is a course you will study to be jobless. So that...
I mean...
No jokes.
What do biochemists do? I mean to ask.
Let me think. It's either at the end of your biochemistry, you are doing welcome to Access Bank. How can I help you?
And it is almost always the case.
No, check it. Go on WhatsApp. If it's message somebody and the person replies, welcome to this person's CEO of so and so that they ask WhatsApp CEOs, ask them what they study. Is it that they study biochemistry or they study microbiology? You know, doctors with low jam score.
More.
So I'm saying
this is not even fair.
I'm talking about it from the Nigerian context.
Yeah, of course.
I know that most of the people that we studied biochemistry together are doing nothing related to biochemistry. I know the one that is a painter. I know one that is a WhatsApp CEO. I know one that seriously, those that went into tech. In fact, the most that used the biochemistry went back to school to go and teach biochemistry. So they want to go and bring a new crop of jobless Nigerian youth. So imagine after studying biochemistry, apologies to anybody that studied biochemistry, but imagine after studying biochemistry and finish serving and you are thinking to yourself, do I go back and do a master's?
Do you even have the money to pay for the master's?
Do I have the money to pay for a master's? See, I've said this before. When I finished serving, I went back home, after service. Went to my father's house. I just realized that I was no longer expected to be there. Because, and this is not even a joke, they were starting to rear broilers in the room that I was living in. So when I go home, I just
needed you out of that house.
I guys go back. I went back. Here. I served in Jos. I went back to Jos. And that season, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what next because for me, I'd always thought, okay, I'll do media, but how? Do you understand?
Yeah.
So I went back to Jos. I served in one particular establishment like that. It was like a house. It's like an office. So we usually go to the office. So when my rent expired and they pursued me from my house, I went to go and start living in the office that I served in. So in the morning, I would go back to my neighbor's house because my former house was close to the place. I'll go to my neighbor bath, then come back. So nobody that comes to the office, we know that we used to live in the office because we didn't have money to rent. Even if you rent, renting is the least amount of money we spend when you're moving to a house. Because you need to buy things. Nobody will tell you need to buy cotton. Nobody will tell you need to buy food stuff. So I stayed in that office for a while. And then I was going to church.
You were broke, man.
I was broke.
You indeed
broke.
Broke.
Let me tell you the truth. There was a time when we used to use 100 naira. Nigeria. We used to use 100 naira to keep ourselves afloat every day. So this is how we used to do it. We used to time. Around 6:37, there's one woman that used to sell akara. And
this akara we
around our area.
They have done it. So
what
boys.
we do is that we'll buy 30 naira bread. We'll now buy akara it used to be 30 naira bread, akara, 20 naira.
But that was even a time when 30 naira.
When 100 naira
you
do all
bread.
of that too.
What?
So you see that 100 naira, if you don't time it around that 6:37, when you eat around that 6:37, you know that at least you have strength till the next day,
next day.
6:37, around that same period. Because if you eat earlier, you get hungry.
You get hungry.
Earlier. Do you understand? You have to be strategic.
A broke but strategic man.
You have to be wise.
Salute.
Now, this is what I'm saying. Within that season,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, this is my own personal bias, I don't think that it was God's intention for me to suffer.
Yeah.
I feel like it was pride on my own side not to look for help. I explain.
Okay.
Because after a while, you know, I've been saying Mr. Excel on this podcast a lot. This is where our relationship started.
That was where he came.
After a while, I shared the testimony in church and I was telling church, oh, this is what my season has been. And of course, when I was going through that season, I wasn't going through it with a depressed heart. I was going through it knowing fully well that this cannot
only
be.
a season.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
There has to be hope for
Yeah.
what's coming on in the future.
Yeah.
So when I give that testimony, I mean, they reached out to me, Mr. Excel reached out to me. I said, I'll come to our house now. Don't even come and say, just come and have lunch, because of course my pride was saying, no, I can't stay with anybody. Do you understand?
Broke and proud.
Lunch.
Wow.
I had lunch that day. I ate food. I like, Jesus, this is how food tastes.
From
I
eating
ate food that had meat. God, I beg. You know, after that day, I started going to his, I started frequenting his house a little bit. I'll go spend the night, come back the next day to my office. Then one day, I walked from his house to the office. I think it's maybe like 1 hour, 30 minutes or thereabout. I went to the office, and then I was expecting to get transport from the office to go back home. But I did not now get. So I now told them that, no, I'll spend the night, I'll come tomorrow. And I now told another person that was in the house that, this is the reason I couldn't come, I didn't have money.
Yeah.
Now drove that night, I came and picked me from the office. They said, carry your things, pack your things, quick. That's how I started to live with them. So
dear.
I mean that there's always provision from God, even in seasons where you don't have money.
Yeah.
So I know that we have belittled wealth or belittled prosperity to money. But most times, if you look beyond the physical cash, you will find the provision of God in that kind of season. So for me, in that season, God brought family around that ended up being where I was staying and eating for free, you know, and living life. But it did not invalidate the fact that what God wants uses periods of
seasons,
scarcity, seasons of scarcity, is for you to be able to beat your chest and say, I have learned both to abase
and to abound.
Now it's not the same. Now, of course, I'm a little more comfortable. Like you said, not where we want to be, but not where we used to be. Not where we used to be at all.
Yeah.
You know, but what I've learned from that season is that God will, first of all, if you are proud,
He will humble you.
God will humble you.
Humble you.
I remember walking from church. Church should not be anything less than a 3 hour, 30 minutes walk from the office I used to live. But because I could not ask for transport,
you had to
from
walk.
anybody, because I was like, I'm not going to ask anybody.
See pride.
I walked for almost 4 hours in the night.
My God.
Because I was going home. Do you understand? So those are the things that had to fall off. That I need to make it, self-made. No, nobody is self-made. God has to use community.
Yes.
Has to use seasons like that to teach you a few things. So, brother,
amazing story.
that's my experience.
I think my story is something like yours, actually. God passed me through that season where, man, I've been here. I mean, so just to cut the long story short, I moved from one city to another. So the city I moved to is Jos. So you'll hear us say Jos in this podcast a lot. That's where we're resident now. So I moved from one city, where I am resident right now. I moved from one city to another, and I had to start life all over again. I was working in the previous city. I had a job. I was earning. But, I mean, so spare you the long story, I moved to another city. There I had to start life all over again.
Scratch.
Now, this is what happened. I moved into this city with some money in my account. I had saved from the previous job. So in my mind, that money will sustain me until I got a new job, and all of that. I'm telling you, before my very eyes, Shimbine, that thing they say, like script. Everything finished. I moved into a friend's house. So I had a place I was staying. But at some point the money finished. My friend had to leave town, had to leave the town, move from the town. And at that point his house rent had, expired. So if I wanted to continue staying in the house, I had to pay and then bring my furnitures and all of that because he was going to move everything.
Wow.
Now the same thing like it was for you, God brought family. In church, I mean, this is what I even did. I told someone, look, I want to get a house. And honestly, I didn't have the money to pay for an apartment. This was pride. Sheer pride. I told him, please, do you know of an apartment? I'm looking for a house. And family is just beautiful. The guy looked me straight in the eyes and said, what are you looking for a house for? You can come and stay with me. Simple. And that was it. And that was God responding to my pride.
Did you tell him, no, I want to play?
I knew I didn't have the luxury. The moment he said, you can move into my house, with joy and gladness, I went back to my friend's house.
Like? You know that way you come to your friend's house and you say, come and join me. Bring out your spoon from your pocket.
And they tell you, I had my spoon for back of my pocket. The moment the guy say, you can move it, I say, thank God, That's why I go move my things. Moved in with this guy. Of course, he had, I think, one other person staying with him. But the point is that from that moment, God began to teach me, the importance of family. I didn't have money. Like I told you, everything I had in my account finished and I didn't have a job. But that brother who gave me accommodation would buy the food in the house. If gas runs out, he will refill. If electricity runs, he will refill from the job he had doing. And every once in a while, some money will come in. I will contribute.
Because you're not irresponsible.
I'm not.
It's not like you're irresponsible.
But for more than 2 years, it was like that. I was living with that brother, a couple of other brothers. Things began to, got a volunteering job here. But what we are saying is that, look, there is always that season in your life where God has to.
I'm telling you.
How to leverage on family.
If not, you become Nabal. You know how they say Nabal was just a fool. And he had a lot of money. He had a lot of resources, but he was a fool.
He did, indeed.
So some things that God will teach you, trust me, God will have to teach you when you are base.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. There are some things that he will have to teach you when you are base. There is my pastor will say, the test of adversity and the test of prosperity. God has to test you on both levels. It's the both sides of the boundary. You have to learn to abase and to abound. If not, your makeup is not complete. Your Christian experience is not complete.
And today I can boldly say I have family because of what I have family. There's no situation I will find myself in now that I don't have someone I can call and say, brother, I am in this situation. And they won't come through for me. So, brother, in case this is your situation, listen, settle down. Settle down. May God pass you through that process. Because you see this brokenness like this, but now all of us now ain't been done here.
We live at a time where people don't want to pass through a process. They don't want to pass through a season where they don't have. That's why you notice that people where I stay in the south and all of that, you'll notice someone, he's 14, he's 15, he's saying, I want to blow, I want to make them.
That early.
Before you know it, you will be more than tempted to go into vices that will put you in a loop, because you find predominantly more people doing Yahoo, more people looking for dishonest ways to make money. It's because there's this speed, there's this kind of rush. 30 under 30, Forbes 30 under 30. You want to make this money, you want to blow early. And I think that it contributes to how people will not appreciate the seasons of adversity or seasons of abasing, rather. And for me, I'll say this to every brother. I believe that everyone should have a season where they
totally
they don't have.
Totally.
They don't have.
Some way, somehow, something I realize with life is that some way, somehow, especially if God is mindful of you, some way, somehow, he will bring that.
Yes.
Now, how do you explain someone, in the United States winning a lottery?
A lottery, yeah.
$1 million, right? That's what it is, $1 million. And you give that person just 1 month or 2 months, and the person is down to zero. Do you understand that? Now, even the test of, scarcity teaches you how to manage. It makes you a better steward of resources.
Truly.
Yeah. So what not going through process does for you is that you're never a good manager of resources.
Yeah.
And so someone may be listening to us, say to himself, does everybody have to go through how do you explain someone who is born into affluence, whose parents are very rich and all of that? I say to you that, look, same applies. Now, maybe that person doesn't have to go through a process of lack, so to speak, because that person is born into affluence. There's no way, no how that there won't be money around the person. But there has to be an extra work of teaching that person discipline. So that person knows how to manage the resources that is in the family. Else, the same story repeats itself. When you find a son or a daughter or a child who, grew up in a lot of money and never learns discipline, some way, somehow, except leadership doesn't come to him in that family, that person will squander the resources. So seasons are very important.
Seasons, brother, seasons. If you're in a season where you don't kill anybody, you really just broke. But you have to make the most of every season. So one thing I know that God uses seasons to teach is to teach character. But then another thing that people have emphasized, and it needs to be emphasized, is that when you become, you will have. What that means is there's no way you can take away the skill that people build over time. Even if you're not making money from it, but you're sharpening your skill. Over time, those skills will end up making room for you, So in a season where you don't really get focus on the things that matter, which is becoming. Becoming in character, becoming in skill. Because at the end of the day, God is always, opportunity is going to come, favor is going to come.
Always.
And God is always going to make a way, at the end of the day. Woe be you. It says, I think it was in the book of Hosea or something, where he was saying that it was time to be born, but Ephraim was too stupid to come out. That's the Message translation, putting it that way. Let not be that is in a season wherein you should have learned, but you don't learn. At the end of the day, like Bayama said, that season will circle.
It will still come back. So, brother, now season you did, now broke, kill anybody. And it has been the Church Boy Talk. Thank you for sticking with us. I remain Bayama Joseph, aka B. And
if you want to say Obute the storyteller, why would they stay off his ball?
The Lord has done it finally.
Hey, finally.
Thank you till we come your way again on the next episode. Stay blessed. Peace out.